toast to the most famous poet in the world, Robert Burns. Now, I won't speak for too long. Don't worry about the copious notes. Tom could read these from the back of the hall without his glasses on. I'll only be about an hour and 3/4. Because I asked Eileen for some advice on how long I should take tonight. And she said, Mike, a speech should have a good beginning and a good ending. And they should be as close together as possible. Burns was born 250 years ago tomorrow, on January the 25th, 1759. And when he died in 1796, he was only 37 years old. Yet here we are, more than 200 years after his death, still celebrating his birth and his life. The first Burns supper was held in honour of the poet at Burns Cottage in Alloway, as David said earlier, on the 21st of July, 1801, the 5th anniversary of his death. The group of 9 Ayrshire gentlemen agreed then to meet the following year on the 25th of January, the poet's birthday. Hence the tradition began for Burns Night on the 25th of January. Nowadays there are more than 1,000 Burns clubs wide world, each celebrating the poet's unique contribution to literature. Apparently in 1826, at the Burns Club in Dumfries, the members stood no fewer than 34 times to toasts, even including the Greek cause of independence. Sounds like a hell of a party. Outside Scotland, the country which used to boast most Burns suppers was Russia. Now, I'm not sure whether they liked the haggis, but I know they liked the gravy. However, in last week's Sunday Times, there was an article written by McSween's of Edinburgh, who said that 60% of the haggis that they are producing for this couple of weeks is going south of the border. And also Hall's, another haggis manufacturer from Broxburn, said the majority of their 300 tons of production will go to English customers. Now that's what that's what I call education. My father was a farmer upon the Carrick border, and carefully he bred me in decency and order. He bade me act a manly part, though I had ne'er a farthing, for without an honest manly heart, no man is worth regarding. Now these are Burns' words, but in fact his philosophy on life. He was perceived to be a hard-working, hard-playing, hard-drinking man. But it's apparent from his works, he really cared deeply about the ordinary people. There is little evidence to suggest that Burns was anything more than a social drinker. But in the puritanical times that he lived in, I fear many of us would have been tarred with the same brush as Burns was. The myth is that he was at worst an alcoholic, at best a heavy drinker. But in a letter that has recently been published that Burns wrote when he was 29 years old in 1788, he described heavy drinkers and condemned them as half-drowned stupid wretches. And he stated that by not drinking to excess, he avoided the brawls that were commonplace in the bars and pubs that he frequented. And he said, for myself, I had from the early days a touchy stomach, and dared not take more than a limited quantity for fear of bringing on the severe nausea. But the strongest argument in his favour, that if he had been a heavy drinker, it would have been impossible to produce the quantity and quality of the work that he did in his short life. The two simply don't go together. He blamed the bad press in his life due to the fact that women were attracted to him. The poor wee soul. Gents, should we pity him or envy him? Burns was came from a poor farming family. And a few days after his birth, during a violent storm, the gable of the family home was blown in, and this prompted the verse in Rantin' Rovin' Robin. Our monarch's hein was year but young, was 25 days begun. 'Twas then a blast of January wind blew Hansel in and Robin, Hansel meaning luck. His poverty in early life were severe and with few opportunities. He saw and experienced the background of toil-worn poverty in Scottish rural life. He attended Alloway School until he was 6 or 7 years old, when his father was offered the lease of a farm at Mount Oliphant near Mauchline. And it was there that Burns met the man who had a great influence in his life, a teacher called John Murdoch, who was appointed by local parents to teach their children. It was also there that a relative called Betty Davidson helped to fire the poet's imagination with tales of ghosties and spunkies and whigmaleeries, and these tales no doubt had a great influence on the tale of Tam O'Shanter that we will hear from Jerry. Burns was a keen pupil and a voracious reader. By the age of 14 he was studying grammar, French and Latin at a school in Ayr. And it was there that Burns wrote his first poem for a young lady called Nell Kilpatrick, who he called my handsome Nell. Oh, once I loved a bonny lass, and I love her still, and while this virtue warms my heart, I love my handsome Nell. But Nellie's looks are blithe and sweet, and what's the best of all, her reputation is complete and fair without a flaw. It was his first verse, and though he said in later life that the words were silly, it was still one of his favourites. All of Burns's early works were written in English, or as English as a poor farming laddie from Ayrshire could get. And it was only while he was studying flax dressing in Irvine that he read the works of a poet called Robert Ferguson and discovered how the old Scots or Lowland tongue could be used to enhance his verses. In addition, it was a language understood by the poor local working people. It gave them an affinity with Burns. He was bringing rhyme and poetry to simple, hard-working people. And not only was his style unique, he was discussing and describing their plights and the events that were so familiar in their everyday life. When he saw the factor or the rentman, Dave McClure, riding into their farm, demanding money from his father that his father didn't have, he saw how old his father looked long before his time, and he wrote, "Poor tenant buddies scant o' cash, how they mun thole the factor snash. He'll stump and threaten, curse and swear, he'll apprehend them, pound their gear, while they may ston wi' aspect humble and hear it all.